Hey, this is Malika of Evanston Live TV, and I have with me today a returning guest. A returning guest. Actually, she's been on, you were on a couple years ago, Marquise, when your son was participating in the Art of Evolution theater production at Family Focus.
I remember. I
Yes,
remember.
yes. And I fell in love with your son.
Yaris is a good kid. He's a good kid.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. But welcome back to the show, Marquise. You are running for District 65 School Board. Girl.
Yes.
And it has started out quite interesting.
To say the least.
Yes, okay. So, first, for those who are not up on what's happening with District 65, District 65 has been under a lot of heat, period, with wanting to keep the schools closed during COVID, which I am here to say I was totally understanding to Dr. Horton's decision and the board's decision to keep the children safe because they did not want to lose one child on their watch had they opened the school. And I can't do anything but support and respect that. And I know people are like, well, if it was, if they followed the safety guidelines with COVID, no, it was information coming out about COVID every day, new information. This works, this doesn't work, this works, this doesn't work. So you don't want to risk the children, coming back to school. I totally understood that. And, they started receiving death threats. I mean, just everything that they were doing in regards to trying to keep the children safe, and as well as trying to focus on helping children of color, Black children and children of color in the district. So you are walking into quite a bit, Marquise.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. So I mean, what made you decide to run, especially during a time like this? This is, no prior board has had to deal with this issue with the pandemic, especially. I mean, and the racial issues. We've always had racial issues in Evanston, but it's kind of been dressed with flowers. But now it's like really just it's out there.
Yes. It is all the way out. The cat is out of the bag. And my obviously we never knew we would be in this position. And my decision to run for school board came way before there was even any inkling of a pandemic. It all began from my son's reintegration back in from therapeutic day school when he attended one of our elementary schools. And the experience was not as pleasant as I would have hoped for. And I began advocating for him. And I just wanted to be sure that in my experience, that I'm sure other parents experience the same thing. And I made up in my mind that day after leaving that meeting that instead of me sending emails and having phone calls and requesting IEP meetings, I have to get on, I have to be in a position to be able to make decisions that impact those students specifically, but obviously all of our students.
Hmm. So you're coming in with some serious purpose to all of this. You're coming in.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. My purpose is clear, and it is to make sure that all of our kids are accepted and are equally provided for. And I will use that word, our children, and I want everyone to not be confused that I'm speaking about only Black and brown children. I'm talking about all of our children in District 65, because all of those children, I feel like, are my children. And that's where my passion lies. And I will not I have to be able to tell my sons that I fought for you. And they can, and their friends will know that I fought for you, and that we did not just allow these injustices that I experienced in that moment of that reintegration to go on, and any other areas that students and families are struggling in.
Mm. Now, I know everyone is wanting to address what happened in the Evanston Live TV District 65 forum that happened last week. People are still talking about it. And as we're talking more about integration, um, I heard an interview with Trevor Noah recently, and he said, you know, society seems to think that it's about integration when really it's about what we're wanting is access to equal opportunity. And I thought that that nailed it right there when he said
Hmm.
that. Because what came out in that District 65 forum was a battle between integration and simply wanting access to equal opportunity for the children in the Fifth Ward so that they have access to what other children have access to in their wards, in their neighborhoods. If you want to break down to everyone, because I don't want to sway or put my spin on things, explain what happened in that forum.
So what happened was there was a very important question that was asked by Terry Shepard. Why do we have to wait? And my opponents gave their heartfelt answer. I felt like they that's how they feel, and everyone has the right to feel how they feel. But it comes from a different space when you've lived this life, and when you have been the one on the other end of not receiving the access and the resources. And all my passion came across to some as being angry, but I will not compromise my passion for the children of the Fifth Ward or the children that are marginalized in our district for anyone. And especially because I am a woman of color, a single mother of four Black, beautiful young men that I believe have the ability to be anything they put their mind to. And if only they are given the tools. And that is with all of our children. If if we are given the tools to do the job correctly, we will be able to thrive. And I think that's the issue, that we don't have the resources, and we're not given when we're not giving the tools to be able to enter into a society later on in life, because we've been deprived of our resources in our early education. So I it is not I do not apologize for anything that went on in that moment. When Maya Angelou also said that when people show you who they are, you believe them. And whatever you can take from that, whatever you would like. And what I tend to show and continue to be is a woman of integrity. And my children, our children, mean so much to me. I think it may be a little, I may be out of the way of saying this, but people may be scared that we will have in the Fifth Ward the next Granville Woods, or the next George Washington Carter. There's so many things that our children can be, and I just want them to have what they need. As a mother of four sons, I encourage them to not only be what they aspire to be, but you have to put in the work. But unfortunately, like in any job, if you're not given the tools to do the job correctly, you will fail. And we've been set up to fail without the resources or the tools.
Mm. So, have you had the opportunity to speak with others about how diversity is, as them needing diversity in their schools? whether it's to receive more funding because it just looks good. Um, have you had a conversation with any of our city officials? Though I know the city is separate from District 65. Um, have you had a conversation with any of them about how that has such an impact?
No, I haven't personally had a conversation with anyone regarding how that is. But the whole diversity piece is that, so we go into other, schools and other neighborhoods to provide diversity, and which also leads to emotional and social productivity to others, while we are losing that in our community and in our children. So unfortunately, I have not had the opportunity to speak to anyone on the in the city level, or anyone to really dig deeper into that and to bring light to that situation, but I would love to do so.
In regards to reparations, this has been my thought since Evanston reparations has come up, and maybe you can tell me what you think of this. I think when Evanston reparations came up, everyone was very, very excited about it.
Hmm.
And people started throwing out their ideas of how reparations, how we can really repair the injustice that has been done to Black families in Evanston. Um, so one of the first things was to put the school back in the Fifth Ward, because that is the gift that keeps on giving for generations and generations and generations. And then somehow, I don't know, I started going to the reparations meeting, and it turned into a housing program in which only a small handful of Black families are going to benefit from this housing program. Um, and you have to get qualified, and pretty much the banks are going to win in the
Hmm.
Evanston reparations more than the Black families in Evanston
Hmm.
will benefit from it. um, I've always thought that that first 400,000 should have gone to starting the process of a school in the Fifth Ward. What are your thoughts on that?
I absolutely agree that if we're going to repair what has been done to our community, and that is what we've come up with is reparations, it only makes sense that we would take that money to put into the Fifth Ward School and give back to the children that are being, you know, being deprived at this point, and which happen to be, unfortunately, disproportionately the Black and the brown children. So that money that comes from our blood, sweat, and tears, our ancestors' blood, sweat, and tears, that now we're due, I think it should go back into the Fifth Ward School. I absolutely agree with you. Because why should the banks benefit? Once again, why should someone else benefit from the backs of Black and brown people? We should be able to reap directly those benefits. And yeah, it's coming from the weed sales in Evanston. And okay, that was creative. That was creative. And I would have, that was very
That was
creative.
brilliant. It was great.
That was brilliant. Yeah, to be honest, that was brilliant. But unfortunately, we can't go we can't go and promote people. Everyone go out and buy weed. We don't want to do that. But with that, I think that we should benefit from that. We should absolutely put that into starting a Fifth Ward School. Not the conversation. We've had a lot of conversations.
Girl, I'm so tired of conversation. I don't know what to do.
I'm tired of meetings about meetings. Everyone is having a meeting about the meeting. It's time to have action, and that is where we are at this point. And I'll just tell you, that's who I am. When I see a need, and it does come from me having to be 12 different people to four different individuals, that when I see a need from my children, and I reference them a lot because they are my life. That's the only thing I know. are those boys. That's the only thing I know. And I give everything in me to be able to provide them the best life possible. So I cannot, when I see a need with any of my children, I cannot sit back and be like, okay, well, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it while they suffer, whatever it is, we'll talk about it. No, we have to do it. And if that means making sacrifices, if that means that another part loses out, or we have to take from another area to be able to provide this major opportunity for these children, do it.
Marquise, I think that's why people are really in support of you coming on the board of District 65, is because we can really feel your passion and that you care, and that you're a mother, you have 4 sons, and you just want the best for them, and you're making it clear you want the best for all children. You see them as all the children in District 65 are your children. And it 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 bothered a lot of people that your heart and your passion came off as anger. And many of us have been accused of that, especially in the workplace, when you're trying to just explain something and they immediately go, well, why are you getting defensive? You're being too sensitive.
Yeah,
You're angry. And it's just your strength. It's just your strength. And it scares people.
absolutely.
It scares.
Absolutely. And
Mm.
you go ahead. You go ahead.
Oh, you go
I
ahead.
would like to, I'm sorry, but you struck a nerve, because the passion that we hold it carries over in our children. And this is part of the reason why we have children that are overdiagnosed with emotional disability in our school district right now, because the clinicians and the psychiatrists and all these people, they say, oh, they're angry, they're on the edge, they have to be medicated, they have to be silenced, when all it is that they have fire inside of them, and this means something to them. And they misidentify our children as being emotionally unstable, when that's not the case at all. These children have so much in them. They're creative, they're excited. That's what they are. They're excited when they see something that they like, and or they may be frustrated, because children, what I also believe is that I listen to children. I you know and you might can relate to this, Malika, that in our households, children you really don't say anything. You do what your parents say, and you really don't have an opinion. And when I became a mother, I said, I will not do that, because while my children may not understand how adults come to these decisions, they do have an opportunity to voice how they feel, because their feelings are valid. And if we listen to children, they'll tell you the story.
Mhm. Mhm. So, Marquise, I'm gonna get one more question in, and I'm gonna open it up.
Sure.
So everyone, get your questions ready. Use the raise your hand signal. If you can't find it or you have tech issues, then please write your question in the chat, and I will call on you to ask your question. Okay, so Marquise, coming, look, I'm already saying coming on the board of District 65, like, you know, like it's already happening for you. Coming on the board of District 65, we're still in the pandemic. There's still budget issues going on. Many people believe that the board has been irresponsible with the spending. Others feel they've done the best that they could with the budget that was given to them prior to them coming on the board.
Mhm.
What are your plans for handling the pandemic? And what are your views on the budget and programming?
So I think that given the current budget, and like you said, they have inherited this deficit. So we cannot totally bash the current board and say that they have mismanaged the money. What I believe they did was saw a need. We want equity. and that the community has spoken and the board has agreed that equity is what is needed, and equity costs money. You're going to have training. You have to have, you have to have a lot of programs put in place in order to provide an equitable experience for our students. My plan is to be able to look at, what is most important, and be able to make decisions and goals based on the necessities in our community, in our district. Programming, thus far, I do believe that coming back in from a pandemic, I think it is going to be essential that we engage more social workers. And I think that is also, and while we did get rid of SROs in the school, I do think that we could benefit from having CROs. Well, what are CROs? Community resource officers. Because there are a lot, Evanston is robust with resources. Some people just have no idea how to engage in them, and they have no idea where to find them. So I think if we had someone in our schools, in every school to provide community resources to parents that students that are already in social work, and they may have a need from their families, because again, I would like to sustain the family stability and maintain that. And when we have children that come in and their families are in need of resources, but they don't feel comfortable with reaching out to the social worker, because if we reach out to the social worker and it is a need for food, then all of a sudden District 65 may be called to say that we're starving our children, when in actuality, we're just managing, we're just trying to manage with what we've been given. So if they're mandated reporters, and sometimes they over diagnose the issue, and looking at the facts instead of looking at the truth, sometimes allows for people to put families in more of a strenuous situation. So community resource officers, I think, would be very beneficial to our schools to be able to provide resources for families, and not in fear of DCFS being called on them.
Mm. And I hear that happening a lot in the community. Like, people just pick up their phone so quick to call child services on a parent and not knowing what's actually happening. I would love to put some legislation in place for that. Actually,
Yeah,
we need to look into that to see if there's anything out there right now in regards to that.
absolutely.
But
I have an eclectic group of friends, and I sometimes say to my friends, like, well, if I do this, if you take your son to the hospital for bumping his head, they'll just say it was an accident. But unfortunately, if I take my kid to the hospital and say he bumped his head, it's, well, what's going on at home? Or if my child comes in, and to speak back to the D65 forum, when they're tired and they come to school and they sleep in school, they say, well, what happened? Did you not get enough sleep at home last night? What's going on at your house? There's nothing going on in the house. The children are just tired. They've been bussed all day.
mhm, mhm. And paint the picture for parents to understand the whole busing, how it really does have an impact on a child, because they're not able to get involved in activities like they would love to
Mhm,
after school, because they got to
mhm,
get on the bus and get home. Um, they can't get that extra help at school after school, because the
mhm,
concern is, I got to make the bus.
mhm.
So that becomes the stress of the day. I got to make the bus. If I miss the bus, then how am I going to get home? Um, Explain that to how that actually affects a child if they're too tired. They get home, they're stressed out, they're tired.
Absolutely. So this is, I'll just take you in a day in the life of me getting these children up to get on a bus. Now, we just had a snowstorm the other day. Had my children been in school and had to get on a bus, we would have had to get up already on a regular day, you have to get up maybe an hour early, but then we would have had to get up maybe 2 hours early because you have to get to the bus corner, stand in the cold for a very long time in hopes that a bus comes, because sometimes the bus doesn't come and you have to call transportation and you say, you know what, the bus didn't come. Well, they're like, well, go to another corner. Well, what if you don't have a car to get your kid to the other corner? Now you get them to school, and once they're at school and they want to participate in after school programs and enrichment programs, or be in the drama club, or be in a play or something like that, and I live on one side of the town and the school is on the other side of the town, I I can't even be able to support my child in what they're trying to do. So they don't see their parents in the audience, because unfortunately we can't just walk there. We can't just walk there. We've been at work for 8 hours. Now we have to make it to the other side of town to be able to support our children. So now that creates a whole nother issue for your child. Now they feel like, because they're children and they don't realize that it's bigger than mommy didn't show up to your play. It's the fact that what their children feel like is, my mommy doesn't support me. My mommy doesn't love me. And when they're children, they may put those two together and say that whatever activities I'm in, my mom is not able to be there. It's not because we don't want to be there. It's because we don't have the opportunity to, because it's too far away from our homes. And the children, when my kids used to come home from school, and after they've been bused from whatever school, and then they go to Family Focus after school to receive their enrichment or to engage with their peers, by the time they get home and I want to, hey, let's talk about your day, they're asleep before we can get from from Fleetwood to Dodge sometimes. But and that affects children, that affects their ability to be able to focus in class. When they're tired, they can't focus in class. And then there we go again to the over identifying of our children.
And it has a lot to do with the achievement gap.
Absolutely. The achievement or opportunity gap. Yes.
I've had people correct me when I call it opportunity, and when I call it opportunity, and people correct me on achievement. So I've just stuck with achievement gap.
That's fine. That's fine. It's both. It's both.
Mm-hmm. So paint the picture to parents what your plan is with the achievement gap. Coming on D65, what is your plan to really attack that first day that you're elected?
First and foremost, it is going to have, you have to look at their current placement, and is their current placement the best for them. Now, while we have children that are in special education, and then we also have the other spectrum of children that are excelling very well and doing very well in school. We need to make sure, obviously, that we continue to keep those children engaged and to continue to challenge them. But the children that fall within that achievement or opportunity gap, I would like to just work with the current board. They have had the Algebra for All program that is helping to close that gap. Also, their early childhood report that just came out was alarming to see that, alarming in a good way, alarming in a good way, to see that their numbers are rising in the literacy of our our kindergarten students. So I'm excited to allow that number to grow. So I would just, obviously you get in and you see the facts and you deal with what you have at hand. But I'm very, very pleased with how they're making the strides, and not just talking about it. They're making the strides in closing the gap for our children.
Mm-hmm. If anyone has any questions, you all, we're opening up for questions. Okay, back to COVID-19.
Mm-hmm.
First day you're elected. We're still going to be in the pandemic. What's the first thing that you're going to do What are you going to bring to the board to say, look, I think we need to do this?
Mental health goal. We need to make sure that that the children are healthy mentally, because this has caused a lot of stress on families. And believe it or not, children have stressors just like we do. And it is important to address that. So I think first things first, that we make a mental health goal to be able to speak to that issue amongst others that we will have coming in the building. But for me, that would be the primary concern, is the mental health of our children.
Yes, mental health is extremely important. I was speaking with the Learning Bridge yesterday. I had a meeting with them, and it's interesting because I didn't even know they existed, and they've been around for over 70 years. But they help children. For those who don't know who the Learning Bridge is, because I didn't know, they reached out to me, and um, I think that they're a fabulous program because they help prepare kids for kindergarten, and they also provide mental health for kids, especially now. And it's just a phenomenal program. And one of your opponents had spoke on how many children are not prepared for even kindergarten. Like, there's a big focus on kids not being prepared for ETHS, but she was saying that there's a lot of issues with kids not being prepared for even kindergarten. So is this a program that D65 is working with, or can maybe utilize more if they are currently working with them? Because the program sounded amazing.
So I would not be able to know if they are currently working with them. I do know that the Learning Bridge is an amazing program, and if what they are doing is working, and it encompasses everything that a child needs, I think that we should be able to use that resource in our community to see what is their model, and be able to try to put some of those key components in place so that our children in the district are excelling to the best of their ability. And any other such as Cradle to Career. Of course, president of Advocates for Action here, that Cradle to Career is a wonderful community resource as well. But unfortunately, I can't say for certain, Malika, if they are working with the Learning Bridge, but they may want to, or we may want to.
Yes, look into that. Look into that, definitely. Um, so tell everyone more about, because I know you do a lot in the community. Um, Peter Braithwaite, Alderman Peter Braithwaite always says, you can't really run for an office until you've actually been out there doing some work in the community, being a part of committees, just really getting your hands in there. And you are one of those people. You have been out here in this community doing your thing about the community. So tell people more of the work that you've been doing so that they know you just not, a mom who woke up one day and said, I'm running for the board.
Well, well, the community part of myself is what really drove me here. But yeah, I have been the president of Advocates for Action for the past 3 years, and we work with over 40 community partners in Evanston, and to provide resources for everyone in our community. We were able to provide over 100 at the beginning of COVID. We were able to provide over 100 families with food. We wanted to make sure that everyone had a good meal, and we also provided with partnership with the United Way. We also did a back to school program. Not a program, a back to school giveaway at Target to provide school supplies for over 100 families as well. We've just done a lot, because I believe that you have to have, it's all about relationship. It's all about relationship. If people are able to relate to you and people are able to feel like that they can come to you without judgment, then I think that they are able to open up to you and you can really see and really feel the needs of our community. I have worked with in the after school program, always willing and always try to help out Miss Joanne at Family Focus whenever that's needed. Also, I am a minister at Christ Temple Missionary Baptist Church. So, we we give back to the community. We give back to the community. My pastor makes that a priority that we give back to the community in whatever way possible. So while we are right now ministering to families with weddings and funerals, just being able to be support for people in our community. I also volunteer with the Hoops Avenue program. It's probably not called Hoops Avenue anymore, but I always get it confused because my children play on so many different sports teams. But E-Town Elite, I think that's what they're called now. But I always helping out there at their games and with the concession stand and, being a scorekeeper, whatever I need to do. I am currently the school board PTA treasurer at Chute as well.
Yes, yes. So you have the resume on this board. You have it. Okay, we have a question from Kristen White. Kristen, if you want to unmute yourself and ask Marquise a question.
Hi, Marquise.
Hi, Kristen.
Nice to meet you. I'm so happy you're running.
Oh, well, thank you so much.
So I'm curious to find out, I'm assuming when you considered running, you looked at the board and felt perhaps there was a skill set or a perspective or something missing that you could add, either bring to the board or enhance on the board. So I'm curious to hear your perspective on if you think there's a particular skill set, perspective, or passion that you'll bring that will make the board even more effective.
So and I can't say this for a fact because everyone is not as transparent as myself, but being the fact that I am a mother of two children that went through the system that had IEPs, and just to be able to bring that firsthand experience of having to navigate that system, because the whole special education part of District 65 is a whole nother realm in itself. And I think that being able to come from that particular part of our parents, and just to be able to add to that, not that they overlook the special education department or the special education children, but I think that their voices need to be heard when making these crucial decisions, that their voices need to be heard and they need to be taken into account as well.
Thank you.
No problem. Thanks for your question, Kristen.
Thank you, Kristen. Okay, if anyone else has a question, we can probably get one or two more in because I can take it over. I got a ton of questions. Okay, feel free to just write your question in the chat or use the raise your hand signal. Okay, so Marquise, going back to the budget, because that is like huge debate going on throughout the city, is the D65 budget.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know you said you wanted to put in CROs. That actually sounds very helpful. Like that could change some things, definitely. What are some other things that you want to do with the budget that's in place right now?
So with the current budget, it does look like they are spending good dollars on equity, and I would just to be able to be at the seat and be able to see exactly how that's being spent, and how our taxpayers' dollars are being spent effectively, would give me a clearer understanding of what I'm working with here, you know. But if the CROs is one thing, and then also to be able to provide more resources for our special education students to remain in the class. They have to be pulled out of their class, and they have to be placed in other schools that are not their home schools. So I would like to see the inclusion of, some more projects, some more resources in their home schools, number one, and in a general education setting prior to removing them from that setting. I'm not sure of this, so don't quote me on this, but I think it would be very effective if the aides in the classroom had some special education training. So I don't know if that's a requirement right now. So it may be, and I could be absolutely wrong here, but because most, and if every class does not have a co-taught classroom, I think that every classroom should have another teacher, because there are so many students in one class that someone is going to be left behind, because the teacher is only one person. She can't pay attention to, or he or she cannot pay attention to everyone. So someone is going to feel left out. So having to add an aide to the classroom, number one, and also to require that those aides have some special education training as a requirement to be a aide in the classroom. I think that would certainly help eliminate some of the over-identifying factors, and also to help the children be able to feel engaged and not feel left out because they have to be removed from their general education setting given their disability, or what they're not, their strengths are not.
I could be wrong on this, but it just feels like there's probably children who are receiving special needs that really don't actually need special needs. They just tend to learn differently from other kids. I know, being a creative person, we tend to look at things a little more abstract, a little more, differently than the average person, or someone who is really a academia. We just look at it different. It doesn't mean that this child is far more brilliant than this child. How do you think that can be resolved? Because from what I understand, that there was a program in place that kind of separated who they felt were the brilliant kids, and then the average kids. They separated them, and I personally don't think that should happen. Unless a child is just an exceptional genius, just out of this world, and that might be one or two. You know, um, what are your thoughts on that, on separating kids based on test scores, which are questionable, or who the teacher feels, well, I think they should advance, and leave all these kids behind?
Well, I don't think that that's a good model, because iron sharpens iron. So if the children that are exceptionally great, like you said, that are excelling beyond their means, I think that you leave them in the classroom, so that when the kids that are not doing as well, they see their peers excelling, and they're like, man, they're motivated at that point, because most children are very competitive, so they don't want to see the person that sits in the desk next to them doing well and they're not. So and children can relate to each other. So another child may be able to tell their friend, like, look, this is what I did to understand this. And adults, sometimes we want to just, we want to use all these big words. We want to just hammer down on the children, and that's not what they need. I think if it comes from their peers, and they can see their peers doing better and doing great, that this would help them. So separating them creates division as well. that creates division. Now, one group of kids feel like they're better than the other group of kids. And while we should praise our children when they do great, but the ones that are trying their best and have not reached their full potential yet, we can't leave them behind. We have to pull them along, and we have to give them the tools to be able to do so.
Do better. To do better and
To do better.
I'm in total agreement with you on that. Absolutely. Absolutely. But thank you so much for your time today, Marquise. I want to, I know the situation took place on my show on Evanston Live TV. Um, I mean, there's no reason for me to apologize, but I hate that
Not at all.
I came at you. Um, I know how that feels. I've been called angry myself in the workplace. I've been let go from jobs just from explaining, and they felt I was angry and I was
Yeah.
a threat. So I know how that feels, and I hate that, that was thrown at you in that way, and all you were expressing was that you care about the kids, bottom line, and that's what we need on District 65. That's what we need.
Absolutely.
I think the current board, Anya Tanya Vudi, Sula, Biz, Dr. Horton, Joseph, I think they all, at the end of the day, are about humans and they just care, period.
Mhm.
And it showed in how they dealt COVID-19.
Mhm.
They were not willing to lose one child, not willing to do it. They would rather just have kept the schools closed. And that's what we want on District 65.
Yes.
Definitely
Yes.
for our children. Marquise, let everyone know where they can contact you if they have questions or need you to elaborate a little bit more on your.
So I can be reached on Facebook at Marquise for D65 School Board. Also, you can email me at friends of MW. So that's Michael Walter at d65@gmail.com. And I will be sure to get back to you. It's not a ghostwriter. It is actually myself. And I also just wanted to say that, Malika, I don't feel like you said, you don't have a need to apologize to me. I've been called worse names. And if I live a little longer, I may be called worse names. So I'm not, that did not bother me at all. That will not change the passion that I have for our children, and that will not change the vision that that I have in front of me. And I will just continue to, do what I feel is right and what I believe in. And I just pray for everyone's support. And I'm also a good listener, and I want to learn. So if there's anyone that feels like they can teach me anything, I am open to that, because wisdom is what we all need to gain. So please help me, everyone.
One more question:
Sure.
has Katie Voorhees reached out to apologize? I know she wanted to talk and have Starbucks with you. Has she apologized for saying that you were pretty much an angry Black woman coming at her?
No, Katie hasn't reached out to apologize, and that's absolutely okay. I understand that Katie may have, she has children and she has a life. She's a clinician, and she may have a lot of clients at this time. So, in the current state that we're in, so that I will not charge it to her heart. I'll charge it to her head. And but if ever she would like to reach out, I'm more than willing to do so. And hey, I'm here. Starbucks is open. So Katie, if you happen to see this, or anyone on Katie's team, please let her know that Starbucks is open and we can certainly go have a cup of Joe.
All right. I love you, Marquise. All right, lady. And actually, I'm glad it happened on Evanston Live TV, because it opened up serious conversation around town, and it's still going. So it was a good thing. So thank you for being so caring and so transparent and honest and passionate about the children in District 65. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. And thank you everyone that was able to come on today. You guys have a great day. Be safe and stay warm.
Yes, yes. All right. Thank you all to the guests who joined us today. This is, everybody's waving at you.
Bye, everyone.
This is Malika, Evanston Live TV. You all be sure to stay tuned. I will put Marquise's contact information in the description when we post this, so you can reach out to her, ask her more questions. Definitely stay engaged, everyone. We have more candidates coming up here on Evanston Live TV and more forums and just more amazing people doing amazing things around Evanston. So please stay
Yes.
engaged, everyone. Stay engaged. It's important. It is very important. Thank you all.
Have a great day.